Welcome back, everybody, to some more of They Became What They Beheld by Edmund Snow Carpenter. We last left off on enthroning a new medium, dethroning an old. Let's keep going and do some more reading until we get somewhere. It's mating media. Mating two media can simultaneously declassify old cliche and reclassify new cliche. The marriage of the telegraph and press created the front page of the daily newspaper with its discontinuous juxtaposition of images. Hotliners crossed public radio with private telephone. Much of the power of this medium derives, I believe, from its newness and is therefore temporary. Joyce crossed cinema and book in Ulysses, radio and book in Finnegan's Wake, and in doing so, he not only threw light on these three media, but he used each as a means of retrieving that wealth of perception and experience stored in the English language. Crossing tape recorder and book produced the non-literary autobiography, Oscar Lewis's book, Kramer's Instant Replay, etc. Crossing the tape recorder and still cinema and book produces such works as Black and Guy, Carowin's book on the Sea Islanders. In the 1968 elections, the McCarthy campaign staff was approached with a suggestion for crossing media. In the United States, no law prohibits the mating of radio and TV. In Southern California, for example, Spanish-speaking sports fans watch the picture on the TV, but listen to a Spanish-speaking sports broadcaster on radio. So it was proposed that in the New York, New Jersey area be offered a night of radio, sound, and TV picture. 5 commentators were to provide the audio: John Colkin, Gene Shepard, Marshall McLuhan, myself, and Tony Schwartz, who originated the idea and had a sound studio equipped to handle the project. A bank of small TV sets offered simultaneous coverage of all principal TV stations in the area. Each would be kept on its particular channel. From these, the commentators would select programs shown on a master TV set and toward these programs direct their comments. The plan was to announce in the New York, New Jersey newspapers that at 7 p.m. a certain night, a local radio station would provide that evening's TV audio. For example, the audio for a TV cigarette commercial would be 1 minute of coughing via radio. If there was a laugh show, it would be pointed out that the laugh tracks were copyrighted in 1935 and that most of the people one heard laughing had been dead for some time. The listeners would be asked to turn to a channel showing Walter Cronkite, at which point they would hear a taped countdown, first in English, followed by a blast, then in Russian, then Chinese, each followed by blasts, and more blasts, and finally, only a child's cry. Finally, and this was the point of the whole project, listeners would be encouraged to tune into a channel with Hubert Humphrey speaking. Instead of his speech, however, they would hear, on radio, the 4 letters he wrote to his draft board gaining exemption from duty in the Second War. 1 letter citing 2 lectures he had delivered to an ROTC class, while in the background would be playing Hitler's ranting, bombs, and screams. Then, Humphrey's pro-Vietnam speeches. A glorious adventure and fun, and great fun, isn't it? While in the background, the guns and screams continued. The McCarthy team, mostly literary men, saw something profoundly immoral in the suggestion. New forms always seem immoral or chaotic since they are unconsciously judged or referenced to consecrated forms. But a curious contradiction arises. New forms are condemned, but the information they disseminate is believed, and while the old and valued aren't even seen. The tribe that swallowed the private eye. Tribal men everywhere regard themselves as integral parts of nature. They belong to a seamless web of kinship and responsibility. They merge the individual with the whole society. They're involved with life. They experience a participation mystique. The experience is one in which people are eager to merge with cosmic powers. Beginning with the phonic alphabet, beginning with the phonic alphabet and the Greeks, there came a habit of detachment and non-involvement, a kind of uncooperative gesture toward the universe. From this refusal to be involved in the world he lived in, literate man derived detachment and objectivity. He became alienated from his environment, even from his body. He believed there is an elegance in detachment. He valued the isolated, delimited self, especially the mind. He became an island, complete unto himself. Today we've entered a relatively dim, resonating tribal world, in which the electronic extensions of everybody's nerves involve him deeply in all other lives. Where writing and print technology tore man out of the group, creating the great misery of psychic alienation. Suddenly and without warning, the electronic media hastened him back into the embrace of the group. Electricity binds the entire human community into a single tribe, with much resulting erosion of individualism. While this threatens the sense of identity of many people, it can also heighten our awareness of the shape and meaning of our lives to the level of extreme sensitivity. Eliot's to understand what it is to be awake, to be living on several planes at once. Tribal artist. Art is a title traditionally reserved for works of self-expression. Aestheticians and art collectors, taking a belated interest in ethnic and electronic art, now accord both fields the dignity of this title on the grounds that both meet this requirement. They refuse to believe true art can be achieved by other means. But self-expression, a product of literacy, is alien to the tribal world. Everyone in a tribe is involved with everybody simultaneously. Tribal societies are implosive. There is no isolating individualism, no private consciousnesses, no private point of view. These are products and goals of literacy. The image of a tribal artist as a specialized, fragmented, role-less individual who seeks to discover himself and to reveal his private point of view is nonsense. The private wits or sense of men were released from their corporate restraints by the fragmenting power of print. Today, we experience this in reverse. The explosive individual energies of literate men are being compressed and imploded by electronic circuitry. Individualism means fragmentation, self-expression, private point of view. People who fill integral roles have no private point of view. They share group awareness and wear corporate masks. Tribal man is a conventional role player, the faithful mask wearer. Wearing a mask means to divest, not to express oneself. A mask or role is not an extension of its wearer so much as putting on the collective powers of the audience. The speaker assumes the collective mask of the image he presents. He manifests a corporate attitude toward life. Among the pygmies, writes Colin Turnbull, the solo song doesn't exist except in the form of lullabies. Their songs may be begun by anybody, no matter what his talent. Leadership shifts from an accomplished to a less accomplished singer with no apparent lessening of support from the whole group. The chief delight of the singers is to listen to the effect of the group-produced counterpoint as it echoes through the dark cathedral of the jungle. As the American Negro becomes more literate, writes Alan Lomax, he loses his former ability to improvise collectively, to become part of a many-voiced but unified chorus or orchestra. They shift from the highly organic, polyphonic New Orleans style to imitative, solo-voiced, cool jazz. The changeover from the old-time congregational spiritual to the modern solo gospel songs are merely the two most familiar examples of this trend. Some writers assert that the anonymity in tribal art is a myth, that specialists can identify with confidence works by individual artists, but the marks of identity generally turn out to be details of craftsmanship or minor stylistic innovations. Occasionally, works of specific artists can be identified on the basis of exceptional aesthetic achievement. But even these are not examples of self-expression. Carver and dancer merely interpret traditional designs the way actors interpret parts. There is a vital difference between variations which maintain the freshness of a style, perhaps bringing it to perfection, and changes which destroy and replace that style. The real question is, does the artist manifest a cooperative view of life or offer a private point of view? Does he efface himself and identity completely with large forces? Or does he become an innovator who regards his uniqueness as more important than tribal conventions? I flew by the nets, said Joyce. Did he mean past the nets of family, church, and country, or by means of them? Literate artists fly past the nets. Tribal artists by means of them. I'd like to be remembered as somebody who told you something you already know. Woody Guthrie. one touch of nature makes the whole world kin. It is a fact, or have dreamt it, that by means of electricity, the world of matter has become a great nerve, vibrating thousands of miles in the breathless point of time. The House of the Seven Gables. We owe a great deal to that frog whose croak was heard round the world one summer evening in 1800. By jerking and twitching every time a distant lightning bolt flashed through the sky, the dead frog made possible Galvani's and momentous discovery. Active nerves and muscles generate electric current. We're all electric generators. Electronic media outer our senses. They extend the human sensorium. That extension is shared. Electronic media join us to a common nervous system. Just as a blind man's cane extends his body, providing information a hand or foot might provide, so electronic media extends our senses to a global scale. Our electronic nerve endings now reach every part of the world, and we function as humans acting on sense data provided by these electronic extensions. This isn't a metaphor, it's man's biochemical form. Electronic media have created a global village where all walls between peoples, arts, cultures come tumbling down like the walls of Jericho. Sight isolates, but sound unites. The American Negro was segregated in the visual world of literate man, but in the world of sound, his music and speech became the music and speech of all Americans. Like sound, electricity penetrates walls, dissolves barriers. Segregation no longer has meaning in any sense. It survives today like a watch ticking in the pocket of a dead man. Electricity makes vast amounts of information available to all. Photography is the mass of data in a flash. In this vastly confusing environment, the problem becomes one of data selection and processing, forcing everyone to abandon the position of the consumer and become instead a co-producer. Everyone is forced to play the total field. Decision making, even in the simplest form, becomes highly demanding. As electric circuitry eliminates scarcity in private and public sectors, we encounter the scarcity that has always haunted the rich, the scarcity of life itself to enjoy the richness provided by nature and achieved by genius. We now possess the means to relive conflicts bred from hunger and from the competition for limited resources. But inner conflicts become more severe, calling for an orchestration of resources in harmony with human faculties. We're only beginning to realize what a tiny slice of human potentialities we now educate. The world is now a happening. Formerly, work was in direct relation to the source of available energy, but man scratched the Earth's surface for resources. But electric energy is no respecter of geography. It allows us to create our own environments, as certain artists create theirs. Suddenly, everybody and everything is involved in transforming the entire environment as a work of art. Theater is no longer on or off Broadway. It's outdoors, in the streets. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Art as an act. When we look at a particular work of native art and see the shape of it, we're only looking at its afterlife. Its real life is the moment by which it got to be that shape. Natives often discard carvings immediately after making them. The concept art is alien to most, perhaps all, native peoples. But the thing itself, the act of art, is certainly there, carefully implemented as a dimension of culture. It is not, however, always easy to recognize. Eskimo, for example, don't put their art into their environment. They treat the environment itself as art form. Life as art has taken for granted by pre-literate peoples, many of whom have no word for art. Among the Naskapi, hunting is a holy occupation in which artists engage. Sioux walk in a sacred manner when on a buffalo hunt. The Balinese say, "We like to do all things beautifully." The Wolof of Senegal go further. They apply words tar and rafet, beauty and beautiful, to people, but for art words they use devaka, yem, mat, that is suitable, that is proportioned, that is perfect. In such societies, art is invisible. It belongs to that pervasive environment which eludes perception. It serves as a means of engaging the individual and his environment, not as a means of training his perception upon that environment. In native societies, I know firsthand, art belongs to ordinary day-to-day experiences. The way a father addresses his son, decorates his house door, butchers a pig, dances, puts on his loincloth in the morning, or addresses his guardian spirit. When Andy Warhol recently ordered to sign an object or offered to sign any object, including dinners, clothes, and what have you, he illustrated a point natives never doubted. Art and life are interchangeable. Suppose Picasso started signing Ford cars, babies, menus, old buildings, photographs. Suddenly art dealers and teachers wouldn't know how to identify art. Recently, when an impromptu New York traffic sign disappeared, the traffic commissioner Henry A. Barnes speculated it's probably hanging around with a Picasso in some villager's studio. To put a tomato can in the Guggenheim Museum, or to bring the unintended noise of the ordinary environment into the concert hall, is an important way of announcing that the environment itself is an art form, and that the total human condition can be considered a work of art. When art becomes inseparable from daily living, the way a woman prepares a meal, speaks to her children, decorates her home, makes love, laughs, there is no art, for all life is artistic. There is one art, no more, no less, to do all things with art, lessness. Piet Hein. where art is the human creating of form and order, all man-made rhythms are patterns of art. Language is art, and everyone by whom it lives is an artist. Everything we do is music, says John Cage. Everywhere is the best seat. California youth, any art I do is something I feel right at the moment. Even dressing this way is art. When you're walking down the street like this, you don't have an exhibit of your paintings, or even say anything.